Waiting on you, bud.
So today is February 10th, 2010. My name is Jason Edrick. I'm here with Daniel Bava. Could you say your full name as on your birth certificate and your birthday?
Daniel Scott Bava, born July 3rd, 1983.
All right, and what branches of the military did you serve in?
I was in the Navy and in the Army.
All right, and about when did you go into the service?
As soon as I graduated high school. I left a month later in 2002.
Okay, and what motivated you to enter the military?
Honestly, it's what I wanted to do since I was a little kid. Like, I remember being a little kid specifically, I'm going to be in the military for a while.
Okay, so do you think that there were economic factors? I mean, was it just good opportunity?
Really, I wanted to travel, get out from my parents, of course, and get you out of the state.
Okay, so did you have a family legacy in the military? Any grandparents, anything?
Actually, yeah, my granddad was a prisoner of war in World War II.
Okay.
Stepdad was a medic, and then several uncles.
Okay, and so do you think that was a big motivating factor?
That was not a huge motivating factor, but part of it.
Okay. So how did you go about getting signed up? Did you go to a recruiter?
I did, right after 9/11.
Okay.
9/11 happened, I literally signed the papers the next day.
So do you think 9/11 was a factor?
That was definitely a factor.
Okay, that's pretty neat.
I mean, I'm pretty much sure I was going to go anyway, but 9/11 happened, and I was, yeah.
Okay, so and then where did you go to basic training at?
Great Lakes, Illinois.
Okay, and this was in the Navy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right outside of Chicago.
Can you tell me what time of year was it? What was your experience like? What's the first thing you thought when you jumped off the bus?
Honestly, as soon as we got off the bus, we immediately got yelled at, took us out of our clothes, put us in their clothes, and then we were literally in a blue jumpsuit for 2 weeks waiting for the rest of our battalion to get there. And so for 2 weeks, we just got yelled at. They did nothing except for wait for other people to show up.
So, how long were you in basic?
9 weeks. Yeah, 9 weeks.
What was there anything enjoyable about it?
Oh, a camaraderie with other guys. And I went with, I actually joined with Justin Knotts. He's from Tucker County.
Okay.
And they actually ended up separating us because him and I would only hang out with each other, didn't care about anybody else, and then they split us up and made us go separate ways.
So, do you think that being from West Virginia did it help you through your training? Was there anything about? I mean, I know there's the whole thing about a lot of West Virginia guys grew up, knowing how to shoot guns.
Oh, I mean, to an extent, but just growing up on a farm, I had a good work ethic, so boot camp I was in better shape when I left for boot camp than when I was when I got out of boot camp.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely was.
Okay. So then, what were you trained, or after you left boot camp, you went on to further training?
Yeah, I went to Pensacola, Florida. That's where my A school was, and that's where they teach us the arresting gear engine, which is actually literally the most complicated hydraulic engine that you've ever seen. It's ridiculous.
And that's what you went on. You went on to do that in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
And then what ships did you serve on?
Just the Enterprise, but I've been on the Kennedy and the Stennis.
Okay.
We were like, the Enterprise got this new equipment, and so we had to go train other ships on how to use it because they sent us to New Jersey for training, and then we had to go train other guys.
So could you, what tours were you on? Where did you go to?
Operation Iron Hammer and Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was pretty much all in the Gulf and the Indian Ocean.
Okay.
But as far as where have I been? It's a whole lot of countries.
Where did you set sail from the United States, or did you meet them somewhere?
Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach, okay.
From there.
And then where did you go on to from there? If
First,
you remember.
yeah, the very first tour, we went straight to the Gulf, like across through the Strait of Gibraltar, which is actually really neat because you have Europe on one side and you see Africa on the other. Go through there, down through the Red Sea, and then turned up through the Gulf. We were there for like 2 weeks and immediately steamrolled to the Indian Ocean to bomb in Afghanistan.
Okay. So, and what aircraft, you saw aircrafts going in and out all the time?
Oh, so I think I did.
Yeah.
I was around planes 24/7.
So, can you tell me about like what you did during the day, how many hours you worked, what exactly your job was?
All right. The job was to pretty much maintain the arresting gear equipment, given there's a cable that goes across the flight deck, but what you don't see is what's underneath of the flight deck. It's just this massive, huge engine with like massive spools of wire and cable going all sorts of different ways.
Okay.
And it was basically to maintain that and to, I mean, you've seen Top Gun, I'm sure. I was one of the little guys running around,
Okay.
getting planes loose from wires.
And you had the you wear the green or the
Yep,
purple or
green
what?
shirt.
Okay.
Green shirt. That actually means maintenance.
Okay. So you did you like doing that?
The job actually was fun, but the hours we worked, ridiculous. Because on the Enterprise it has 8 nuclear reactors, so the nukes have everybody, and the air department was completely understaffed. So I mean, there was times where I'd be awake for 3 days.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I catch a 15-minute power nap, but
Yeah.
it was hours.
I mean, but you overall you enjoyed it though, or you liked it.
It was okay.
Okay. So, and then you were just in the Gulf the entire time for that.
For the most part, but like we stopped, like they let us off ship in United Arab Emirates, which
Okay.
was one of the greatest countries I've ever seen. Bahrain was pretty sketchy, considering that was my first time over there. I didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah. So did you met some locals or you saw some shops and all that?
Yeah, yeah, went through.
A lot different than West Virginia.
Oh, completely different. Completely different.
Well, what was your contact with West Virginia during that time? Did you know, it seems like you went in probably at the beginning of like Facebook and all that stuff.
Well, no, Facebook, MySpace had just came out, but then we were on such high security.
Yeah.
Like all your emails and stuff that we sent were scanned. That was the only contact we had in the outside world, as opposed to now where everybody does have Facebook and
that's
video chat.
Now it seems like something happens over there. It's immediately it's on someone's Facebook.
Yeah.
So there's camera phones and everything. It doesn't seem like you guys probably had it.
No, and like stuff. I mean, cell phones had really just started coming out then too. Like I mean,
you didn't really need them over there.
No, and I don't. I mean, I definitely didn't have a cell phone in high school. Don't know. I guess maybe you did because you're a few years younger than me, but.
Yeah, I think I did towards the end. But so you had pretty good contact with West Virginia. I mean, not really.
Not really, because literally I work so many hours. I'd get an email, and then they have phones on the ship and with phone cards. But I mean, every minute is like $2.
Holy cow.
So yeah, you weren't home very often.
And then did you stay? So the first tour with Iron Hammer, was that right?
It was both. It was because we had to go to both places. It was Iron Hammer and Iraqi Freedom.
So and Iron Hammer, where exactly were you? Where were you in Iraqi Freedom?
Iraqi Freedom was all in the Gulf.
Okay.
And then Iron Hammer was definitely in the Indian Ocean, but where exactly?
Okay.
Don't know.
So, what was the morale like on the ship?
For the most part, we were a really tight knit group actually, but like it was like a group of brothers. I mean, we'd fist fight each other and everything that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Give each other a hug when having a bad day, and
yeah.
So,
and you came back from there, or you cruised back from?
I cruised back from there. We hit what all countries we go to? We went to Greece, Italy, Spain, England.
Wow.
Yeah. In a lot of places.
You see a lot of other coalition forces, English guys. Do you meet anybody?
I met a whole bunch of different guys. Like, definitely had Israelis on the ship. They landed some airplanes out there one day.
Wow.
Definitely European forces. They're all over the place. And then, that's about it.
Okay.
Really.
So when you were in the Gulf, I mean, were you scared? I mean, or were you just not think about it?
Honestly, working on a flight deck of an aircraft carrier, it's mind-boggling. Like, you have to be looking what you're doing at all point in times. Like, there's one job that's called the hook runner, and it's when the planes land and the cable's all the way out, you're unhooking the plane. And where you had to stand, there was times where I'd be a propeller plane right here and a propeller plane right here, and I'm right in the middle. Like, this isn't very much fun.
So, but as in relation to the war, though, you didn't.
No, it was just. But I mean, honestly, flight deck. If you look at that job listing, it's one of the most dangerous jobs in the world.
Right.
It's just. I mean, there's so much going on.
And you're out in the ocean on a table, pretty much.
And you're 90 feet up above the water.
I can imagine that.
Jets spinning around, knocking you over and stuff.
Yeah. I could imagine. So what was the food like? Was it?
I didn't have time to eat. I ate ramen noodles. Ramen noodles, and we'd always send a guy down to try to get us sandwiches. Every once in a while, I like the Navy food actually isn't bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, every once in a while we'd get an off day if we weren't flying, but that was few and far in between.
Did you ever get care packages or anything?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Goodies for Christmas and every couple weeks.
So how many holidays did you miss? I mean, did you miss Thanksgiving?
Oh, I missed Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year. I've missed everything throughout all the years being in.
So what was that like? What was the first? Do you remember your first Christmas being gone?
The first Christmas I was actually in Bahrain that I missed, and I just got drunk.
Really?
But then a couple days later, they told us Happy New Year, and I'm like doing maintenance at like midnight in the dark, can't see anything, and they come over the speakers on the boat, and they're like Happy New Year, and I just remember like cussing at the speaker, going, really, yeah, Happy New Year.
Did it get easier after that though, or? I mean, the holidays seemed like a tough time.
Yeah, but it's only really the first holidays you miss, and then after that, it just becomes part of life.
Another day.
Yeah.
So when you cruised back, where did you go to when you came back?
We stopped at Jacksonville, and actually, I jumped off and rented a car and got back to West Virginia. So
Really?
Because we were pulling back into Virginia, but I was like, oh, I'll get off here, I promise.
So what was it like? Did you miss West Virginia a lot, or was it just the people, or did you miss deer hunting and all those?
All of that.
Yeah.
Literally all of that. I mean, you got to think, like, my good friends, of course, I missed. Hunting. Hunting's my favorite thing to do in the world.
Yeah.
But, yeah, believe me, the second I had a chance to get back, I was back.
So, you came back to West Virginia, and then were you done with the Navy then? Or?
No, actually, that was just my first cruise, and then made one more cruise.
Okay.
And it was actually a world cruise. Went to a lot of countries on that one.
Okay.
But we were in the Gulf for like a month and a half.
Really?
Everything else, we hit Singapore, China, Australia.
So you did see the world?
Yeah, I almost stayed in Australia.
So you definitely do you regret going to the Navy, or did
No,
not
at all.
It definitely sounds like
the Navy was a good time.
Where was your favorite place?
England, because I could actually understand what they were saying.
Did you have any? One thing they like us to ask is, did you have any? Really good stories, or really places that were bad, that are bad stories about the trip, or?
As far as the Navy goes, not really. My favorite place was definitely Australia. Second place was England. I really like Spain because I walked into McDonald's in Spain, they had beer on tap.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
I was like, what? It was awful beer. Worst beer I've ever had.
So was that a 6-month cruise, or was that a?
That one was 7 months.
7 months.
Yeah, because they extended us.
And you came back to Norfolk or Virginia Beach then?
Jacksonville, and then came home for a couple weeks leave, and then back to Virginia, back to work.
And then you were in Virginia until you were done.
Yeah.
So then, once you got out of the Navy, what did you do? You went back to the Army.
No, I came to school here for a year.
Okay.
The GI Bill was horrible at that point in time. It was $1,100 a month, and I was making a lot more money than that as an E5.
Mm-hmm.
So I came to school here for a year. I was like, well, I can't afford this, and then back to the Army. And then I worked full time in Kingwood.
Over at the Camp Dawson.
Yep.
So what was your? How long did you enlist in the Army?
Actually, only 3 years.
3 years, okay. And what did you do?
I was a track mechanic, but I worked on, if it had an engine, I was working on it.
Okay.
We worked on 4-wheelers to the biggest Abrams tank you can find, really.
So were you deployed in the Army at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Where were you deployed to, and can you tell us about it?
Kuwait. It was absolutely awful.
Okay.
It was just sandstorms.
Really? How long were you over in Kuwait?
I did just another 6-monther.
6-month tour.
Yep.
And you were just a mechanic for supporting. ground troops,
Actually, no. I went on the road some too and did convoy security and stuff for people. Yeah, going in and out.
How does that compare to to being the military aspect of being in the Navy, and then actually being on the ground?
Honestly, being in the Navy was a lot more. It was a lot harder just because of the hours I had to work.
Mm-hmm.
When by the time I had joined the Army, stuff was dying down.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really worried about anything. Just the hot weather.
Did you like Kuwait?
It was not horrible, but great. I mean, there's Kuwait City.
So did you actually go into Iraq on foot or on vehicles or anything?
To the border.
To the border.
To the border, and then just literally running convoy security because then somebody else would pick them up.
So did you have any interaction with locals? I mean, I know there's a lot of bootlegging that goes on.
A lot of bootlegging going on. Oh yeah.
Did you have any experience with anything like that?
I definitely had to sneak some alcohol and stuff.
You get so you did have some experience.
Yeah,
with the locals.
DVDs. It's amazing. Like they have movies months before they're released here. I'm like, what?
So did you like being at sea better than being on the ground?
I like being on land, but at the same time, sea's a whole different, two completely atmospheres. It's really hard to compare, honestly.
Yeah, I can imagine. It would be completely different.
Yeah. And then, honestly, I don't mean this in a bad way, but like the guys in the Navy, I definitely had smarter bosses in the Navy than what I had in the Army.
Okay.
Some of those guys I was just like, really, man?
So, so what was your contact? So once you went to Kuwait, obviously your contact was going to be different than what it was on the carrier. What was your contact with West Virginia like then? Were you getting more into the digital phase?
Yeah, completely. It was much easier. Yeah, had a laptop in my room, had my own room, lived with one other guy.
Okay.
Not like the Navy where I was in a room this size with honestly 12 guys living in a room this big.
And so did you had Facebook then, or MySpace, or email?
Yeah, I had Facebook then.
Okay. So did you ever you got letters? Did you still write letters?
No, not at all. The only letters I actually ever wrote was in boot camp. The only time I ever wrote letters.
There's a lot of guys say that too, that once they actually got out and they had internet access, letters have kind of become a thing of the past.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely have to say they're obsolete now.
Yeah. So, so once you completed your tour there, you came back and you were at Dawson again?
Yep, I was at Dawson and finished up my time there working at the mechanic shop.
Okay.
And then they were getting ready to go again, and they were supposed to go to Afghanistan. Was the first word, and I was going to go because I hadn't been there yet. And then they went to Kuwait again. I was like, no, see you guys later.
So, what do you think the best time or the funniest story or the best period of time that you had in your entire military service? When or where do you think that was? Like, what was the best?
What was the best time? Turning 21 in England.
You had a good time.
Yeah. It was a blast.
Yeah.
It was my best time, and then that was we did a 3-month cruise. The second time I went to England, and it was just jokes. We flew like 100. We caught like 50 airplanes a day, which is nothing. We can do that in 20 minutes, and it was just a joke. It was a real good time. It was really relaxed. Everybody was just watching movies and having a good time.
Okay. What about like your worst? Did you have any really bad experiences, places you just don't want to go back to?
I wouldn't get back to Bahrain.
Yeah.
That's for sure. It was just everywhere you went, you wanted to look over your shoulder and be like, what's going on here?
Yeah. How about Kuwait? Would you go back to Kuwait?
Yeah, I'd get back to Kuwait.
Yeah.
Kuwait wasn't bad.
Yeah. So,
Actually, I'd like, there's so many Iraqis in Kuwait too. And like what I noticed, like what the news shows the American public is completely not what's going on. The news just shows people they want you to see. Like, we were pretty well respected for the most part. Don't get me wrong. You could tell the people who hated you immediately. Like, you had guys that looked at you and said they were going to cut your head off and stuff. And you were like, you okay?
So it seems like from the guys that we've talked to is that you join the military right out of high school and you go and you serve several tours. You mature a lot faster than most of the guys that that go to college that you were friends with.
Yeah.
What was that like? Knowing that some of your friends went off to college, they were partying a lot. They were they were going to spring break, and you were serving the country.
Well, because I was stationed in Virginia Beach, I was able to drive back home a good bit. Like, I was home once a month, probably. I mean, obviously not when I was deployed, but I would notice when I would come home, they'd be going crazy doing retarded stuff, and I'd just be looking at them like, really?
Yeah.
You're going to do something? I'm not even mention what happened.
Yeah. So, do you think that you would ever go back to the military?
Actually, it's debatable, considering I'm almost done with school. I definitely, my old boss from the Navy was like, you're an officer the second you graduate if you come back here to me.
And you'd consider it, or you are considering
I
it?
am considering it.
Okay.
But
What's appealing to you about it?
because I'm an officer in the Navy, an officer in the Navy has the best job ever.
Okay, so, but I mean, like, in law, I guess you could have a long career.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Pretty good pay.
let's see, I'd retire in 13 years as an officer and then have those benefits forever.
Yeah. So, so what are you studying in school right now?
History.
Oh, that's right. And then, so do you think that would help at all with your military career? Or
No,
not?
not at
No,
all.
no.
Well, I mean, as far as, there's a lot of stuff you got to read and stuff, like a lot of manuals and stuff. So, I mean,
So, I guess on the political aspect, you said that September 11th was a big motivator for you. Now you see things on the news, Occupy Wall Street was pretty big, but then you also have the Tea Party, on the other end. What do you feel about that as someone who served the country? Do you support these kind of rallies, either left or right wing, or?
can't we just all get along, man, and make things simple in this world? Everything's so complicated and everybody's, I think, got their own agendas and just trying to look out for themselves so much. I have an issue with that just because if I want to compare that to the military, we're all about helping each other out and watching each other's back. And then, I don't know, the country's not in good shape right now.
So how do you feel then about like the legacy of the war? And if you look back at World War II, people know those guys as they were the greatest generation. You look back at Vietnam, they were the forgotten generation. What do you think people will look back and look at the Iraq War that you served in?
Honestly, it's going to be the war of oil. Because since I got out, I didn't think about it when I first went over there. But like, where are the WMDs at and all that stuff that we were supposed to be over there for.
So did you, when you first went over, did you think that was pretty accurate, what you heard on TV?
Oh, of course, of course. And then once you find these things out, you're like, really? So, but I would still wouldn't trade that experience.
So would you recommend this for someone, say if you have nieces or nephews, or if you have kids someday, you would recommend this?
I would, just because it teaches you life lessons. There's so many things that I've learned and so many things I've seen that, like, I tell my mother about these countries and she's like sitting there like, the cliffs are like that in Scotland going into the ocean. I'm like, yeah, hundreds of feet up in the air.
So, do you have anything else you'd want to add about your experience, or any stories or anything that you'd want to have preserved?
I don't know, just really, once we weren't in that mindset and we were getting off the ship and hitting ports and stuff, some of the best times of my life. Like, I remember my friend we were on a rush, we were almost late for our curfew to get back, and he had just bought this brand new New York Yankees hat. This guy from New York, we're on a boat, a speedboat, trying to get us back out to the ship. His hat blows off and he jumps in the water to go get the hat. I remember my one friend running on a boardwalk, wasted, and just literally nose diving right into the water. Foreign girls love American guys. And most men don't like American guys.
Yeah, can imagine.
Especially like Greece, like I remember we tried to go places and they'd be like, Greek club only, you're not allowed here. Thanks, man.
That's funny. So, what was it like coming back, getting out? Coming back from your tours, coming out. Have you taken advantage of the veterans groups? Do you think that you've experienced, PTSD is a pretty serious thing. Do you think that you've gone through some of that?
Don't get me wrong, I definitely knew guys on the base I was on, like, that had got hurt and stuff, but I don't know, I've always accepted that as part of life, because as far as history goes back, there's always been a war. So, but nah, it's never had an effect on me, but I never had any first-hand experience.
Okay. All right, well, we have the Veterans Oral History Project, but I thank you for your service and for your time.
Well,